but these are unprecedented and unusual times.
Jerry was the first child of Lloyd and Edna. My grandfather was known as Bill for most of his life because as a child he wore a cowboy suit that evoked images of Wild Bill Hickok. Jerry was followed by brothers and sisters, Dale, Janet, Ronnie, and years later, Joy. With America's entry into World War II, the Fridleys moved into the Lincoln Park housing projects on the south side of Columbus. Grandpa worked at the Owens, Illinois glass factory, where he would work until his retirement. Jerry attended Lincoln Park Elementary School, Barrett Junior High, and South High School. For his senior year, he attended and graduated from Canal Winchester High School. With his good looks, boyish charm, and robust enthusiasm for life, there is something Norman Rockwell-esque about the young Jerry. He loves sports, reading, and drawing, comic books, radio broadcasts, movies, and the serials. He was the very embodiment of the all-American boy. Jerry was very involved in scouting. In this picture, Bill Fridley is talking to Jerry's scout troop. One of the perks of scouting was the opportunity to usher at the Ohio State football games. Jerry became a lifelong Buckeye fan. He would tell us stories of the exploits of Heisman Trophy winners Vic Janowitz and Howard Hopalong Cassidy, and tales of the legendary Woody Hayes.
Three things. Number one, the team that hits the hardest and the longest, the team that starts the fastest, and the team is too damn smart to make mistakes.
There is a belief that we become what our minds dwell on. Some have said that Jerry has come to resemble the latter-day Woody Hayes. I'd have to say I agree. As a youth and a total novice about golf, Jerry began caddying at the Columbus Country Club. He learned the game, played the game, and watched some of the great golfers of the time. He modeled his swing and studied the books of his golf hero, Ben Hogan. Jerry continues to chase Old Man Parr on a regular basis, one of the great loves of his life. In 1950, Jerry joined the Navy and did his basic training in Bainbridge, Maryland. He was then stationed on the aircraft carrier Coral Sea and embarked on a tour of the Mediterranean. Dad would later tell Mike and me stories about life on ship. The stories I liked best were about the places he got to see: Rome, Marseille, Barcelona, Florence, and Nice. I knew that I wanted someday to travel to these exotic and faraway places. After his stint in the Navy, Jerry returned to Ohio. He worked a number of jobs and lived the bachelor's life until the end of the decade, when he would meet his match, a beautiful young woman from, of all places, Grand Island, Nebraska.
Phyllis was the youngest of the four Shriner girls. Betty, Patty, Donna, and Phyllis were bright, attractive, and hard-working. Their sensibilities shaped by the heartland prairie values of the land in which they were raised. The town of Grand Island is surrounded by the Wood and North Platte rivers and has been called the nation's largest inland island. Two of the region's famous sons are the actor Henry Fonda and Joe Feeney, the golden-voiced Irish tenor who was featured for years on the Lawrence Welk Show. German Americans settled Grand Island in the 1850s. At the turn of the 20th century, sugar beets were introduced as a crop in Nebraska, and the first sugar beet processing factory in the U.S. was built in Grand Island. The girls' father, William Sherman Shriner, who was known by friends as Shanny, worked at the sugar factory for years. Their mother, Mary Elizabeth, whose maiden name was Schultz, was also of German heritage. Phyllis and her sisters loved going to the movies on Saturdays. They would go to the Capitol or Grand Theaters where, for 10 cents, they could get a movie ticket and still have change for refreshments. On Saturday nights, the girls would often listen to the radio broadcasts of the Grand Ole Opry. While the radio was in Shanny and Mary's room, they would turn up the volume so the girls could hear the voices of Roy Acuff, Hank Williams, and Minnie Pearl wafting and yodeling through the house. Because they were close in age, Phyllis and Donna would spend much time together. Their routine was to take their allowance and journey to Kaufman's Dime Store, where a grilled cheese sandwich and a Coke was their fare of choice. Starting with Betty, each of the girls would eventually work at the soda fountain of Bowen's Pharmacy. And, as her sisters before her, Phyllis graduated from Grand Island High School. Not long after her graduation, Phyllis decided to leave Grand Island for Columbus, Ohio, to live with Betty. In the realm of the mythic, the move from Grand Island to Columbus is rich in symbolism. Nonetheless, to embark on a journey 1,000 miles from home at such a young age is an act of courage and adventure. Phyllis and Betty traveled to Columbus on the train. Upon their arrival, Phyllis told Betty, "I just don't know if I can make it in this big city." Phyllis didn't waste any time making her way in the big city. She quickly landed a job at East Broad Appliances. At the time, Jerry was working at the West Broad branch of the store in the vacuum cleaner department. He would, on occasion, make deliveries and run errands to the East Broad store. Upon their first meeting, Phyllis experienced an intoxicating rush and told her co-worker, Serene Har, "Serene, I've just met the most handsome man I've ever seen." For his part, Jerry found reason to make more frequent stops at the East Broad store. After a few cursory lunch dates, Jerry asked Phyllis if she would like to go out some evening for a drink. "Sure," she said, "if they'll serve me." The 27-year-old Jerry was incredulous. "How old are you?" he asked, never suspecting she was only 19. Their first date was at Embers, a bar and pizza place on Livingston Avenue. And for the record, they did serve her. Phyllis soon found out what a rabid sports fan Jerry was. For several dates, they went to Betty's apartment to watch the NCAA basketball tournament. That year, the Ohio State Buckeyes, led by John Havlicek and the great Jerry Lucas, won the national championship. As their relationship grew, Jerry told Phyllis that he loved her. Whether it was shyness, fear, or uncertainty, Phyllis was not ready to reply in kind. The next day, Jerry called to tell her that he had wrecked his car. Fearing it was caused by some heartbroken, traumatic reaction, Phyllis asked what happened. Jerry explained that he had fallen asleep on the drive home and ran his car off the road. It was clear, though, that they were both very much in love. Jerry and Phyllis were married on July 27, 1960, at a Methodist church on the south side of Columbus. Bill and Mike used to joke that in the pictures, Jerry and Phyllis looked a bit like Elvis and Priscilla. That may be. What is not in doubt is that they were one hell of a good-looking couple.
Sunflower in the morning light, shining down on you. Every day is new. Tears falling through a haze of mist. The universe will twist, and sometimes it blows a kiss on a land that was forgotten. Beauty rising from the dust, a savior. I can feel you now. A love I've never known, afraid and on my own. You took me as I am. You understand.
Dad called us his pride and joy. I was the pride for my hard work and achievement. Mike, the joy for his happy, easygoing manner and his fun-loving sense of humor. Mom and Dad were as involved in our lives as any parents could be, attending school events, ball games, and later on our gigs and concerts. Most importantly, they did things with us, especially playing games. Hours and hours of Parcheesi, Monopoly, Pinochle, Risk, Game of the States, Scrabble, and Yahtzee. As the Highlights for Children slogan says, this was fun with a purpose. We learned how to count change, to calculate interest, and to figure averages. We learned new words, geography, the state capitals, and how to devise strategies and make decisions. Aunt Betty was my second mom. Phyllis says that's where I got my champagne taste. Aunt Bet shared with me the wonders of some of the finer things of life. She was my muse of taste, elegance, and sophistication. When Uncle Jim came along, things got even better. We all had many fun times over the years. Christmases, birthdays, picnics, trips, vacations, and playing ping pong, pool, and chess. Mike and I were lucky kids, and we knew it. We were genuinely thankful and appreciative of everything that Aunt Betty and Uncle Jim and Mom and Dad did for us and with us.
I'm a song, I'm a melody, music in the making. I'm working on a symphony. Show me how, sing with me, tell me stories. Will you read to me of sailors, kings, and monsters? We'll figure out the mystery. Show me how, read with me.
Let's have fun.
Will you play with me? We'll draw and paint and color. I'm working on a masterpiece. Show me how, create with me. I'm a child, I am beautiful, a story to be written. We're building something wonderful. Show me how, learn with me. We are young, we are beautiful, stories to be written. We're building something wonderful. Show me how, dream with me, dream with me, dream with me. How was that, Daddy?
Absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
Since 1980, Mom and Dad have lived in their home at 1316 Moeller Road. With the tree-lined street and the adjacent field, it is like a little piece of country in the South Side. For over 20 years, the folks hosted the family for Christmas Eve. Mom and Dad would work as a team, Dad meticulously preparing the games in the basement, and Mom creating a festive warmth with her gracious hospitality. Mom and Dad became grandparents in 1991. We've all been blessed to see Allison become a beautiful and talented young lady. She graduated from high school last year and is studying photography at Columbus State. While I was still living at home, I began attending The Ohio State University with Mom and Dad's encouragement. Here's how I put it in the acknowledgments section of my doctoral dissertation. I would like to thank my parents, Gerald and Phyllis Fridley, for all their help and support. In the spring of 1981, they paid my first quarter's tuition at Ohio State, $412, because they thought I might enjoy higher education. They were right. One of the best things that ever happened to me was meeting and marrying Carolyn. We were so happy our parents could come to Oklahoma for the wedding. I think at heart my dad was a coach and a teacher. He's a pretty serious student of the Bible, and he taught Sunday school for years. He coached Little League football and baseball. One year, he led the Vets to a league championship. Some of the young men he coached went on to be college professors, judges, to play in the NFL and the NBA. Mom is probably the kindest and most caring person I know. She's a great listener, a trusted confidant, and a really funny person who loves a good laugh. She retired after working 30 years at Barrett Junior High Cafeteria. Mom's willingness to learn and grow is remarkable. From her early and sometimes comical culinary experiments, she grew into a consummate cook and host. She has acquired a keen knowledge and appreciation of sports. And I must mention her years of long suffering as Mike and I, Danny C., and an endless array of bass players would practice and in some cases perfect our rock and roll. It's an open question as to how many times one can hear Johnny Be Good and Jumpin' Jack Flash blasting from the basement and still retain one's sanity. Yet, not only did Mom endure, but she took an active interest in our music and could engage in an informed discussion about the Rolling Stones, Led Zeppelin, and Bruce Springsteen.
It seems that springtime was just a moment ago. Springtime was just a moment ago.
We ain't got a barrel of money. Maybe we're ragged and funny, but we'll travel along, singing a song side by side. Oh, we don't know what's coming tomorrow. Maybe it's trouble and sorrow, but we'll travel the road, sharing our load,
side by side, through all kinds of weather. What if the sky should fall? Just as long as we're together, it doesn't matter at all. When they've all had their quarrels and parted, we'll be the same as we started, just traveling along, singing a song, side by side. Every time that I start into travel, and when I'm hitting the gravel, there's one pal who'll be always with me, side by side. Now it isn't a gal or a fella, but I'm all ready to tell ya that things are okay just as long as we stray side by side. Other pals may shake me when my money's all gone, but this pal will make me keep carrying on. And when I see trouble a-coming, on my guitar I start strumming, and that's how we lose all of the blues